that brings us to broad topics, and fuck Jeff Jarrett, let's talk about Samoa Joe.
Oh, okay, I guess.
Upend format, because like Jarrett and Rhino is like the 5th most important thing this month, so we'll start with the best thing this month. Actually, well, yeah, it's probably still the best thing this month, which is the X Division title program between AJ Styles and Samoa Joe. So if you remember at Genesis, there was the big angle at the end of Elimination X where Joe beat the shit out of Christopher Daniels, bloodied him, muscle busted him on his chair, kneed him in the head a bunch, and he was sent out on a stretcher as AJ Styles watched on from the ramp being like, hey bro, that's against our code.
Our code of honor. Yeah, so we're into the run that I think a lot of people associate Joe with at this time. Blood towel.
Yeah, he does have the blood towel. So the first match on the first Impact this month is Samoa Joe against Jarrell Clark, and he does come to the ring wearing the towel with the blood of Christopher Daniels draped over his shoulder, and it is the coolest fucking shit.
Yeah, so like obviously heading into this show, I was like in my malaise of, oh, I have to watch TNA. And then I put it on and Samoa Joe killed Jarrell Clark and I was like, fuck yeah, let's go TNA.
TNA is back. TNA is the best. TNA is the best thing that's ever happened.
Pretty much.
So yeah, squash. Joe wins with the Muscle Buster Coquina clutch. He holds the clutch on Clark after the match as the referees are like, get the fuck off him. That's like my favorite part about all of this current Samoa Joe character. He is just a bitch. He's just a bitch who wants to hurt people.
Which is why I think it's like translating so well in 2023, because he's just doing the same thing.
Styles addresses Joe from the Tron and he says, you broke the code of the X Division, and it's not often that X Division challengers challenge the challenger, but I'm going to challenge you as champion.
Yep, you may think Garrett fucked that up. But actually, that was just an accurate representation of what AJ Styles said.
Maybe even a little better. So yeah, I do like that as a hook though, that like, you know, it's very rare that the champion challenges the challenger, but Styles is like, I want you for an X Division title match.
Because he's pissed.
Because he hurt his, not friend, but he respects Christopher Daniels.
His frenemy.
His buddy. His pal.
Well, that would just be friend.
Buddy.
You broke your own point.
Damn. His rival. Which is right. He is his rival. But November 26th Impact, they show a brief video from Brad N. Holman D.O., which is a doctor of osteopathic medicine.
This guy rules, because he's like, I believe he's a real doctor.
I looked it up. He is a real doctor.
Yes, but they just gave him like $20 and we're like, hey, can you just say some bullshit?
Yeah, and it's literally like 30 seconds. And he's like, Daniels has a grade 3 concussion. He will make a full recovery, but he is not cleared right now.
A grade 3 concussion?
I don't know what the grades of concussions are, but 3 sounds hard.
I wonder if that's like, is that like grade 4 or is grade 3 the max?
I don't know. I've never had a concussion, at least not that I know of.
Is it a grade 5 scale normally, but then one day it broke and went to grade 6?
Ridiculous. That leads us into AJ Styles and Chris Sabin in a real good little TV match.
It's always fun to see these guys just go out on TV and do some bullshit.
Because we never get a big like pay-per-view Styles and Sabin match. That's never happened. But we do get at least like 3 lovely little TV sprints. One in particular in 2009 that's like one of my favorite 5-minute matches ever. And that's what this is. These two go out and have like a 7-minute, 8-minute TV match that's real good. It's Styles and Sabin going out there. And it just kind of rocks for what it is.
Yeah.
Because if you read like Observer reviews of, we've given out about Dave a lot. We've become one of those podcasts. But if you read Observer reviews of this era of Impact, you'll hear Dave giving out a ton every single week about how they're trying to squeeze too much into these shows. And I disagree.
I don't think there's enough. He's like, I really want that Jeff Jarrett Kip James match to go another 10.
Like, I do understand, like, wanting a match like Styles and Sabin to get more time. I would have liked them to get a pay-per-view match at some time in their career.
Like, the idea, I guess, is like, you get little tastes of it on TV, but then when you want the full-length thing, you get it on a pay-per-view. Just in cases like Styles and Sabin, it doesn't work out that way all the time.
Yeah, and when you are dealing with an hour for the whole company. Like, you have an hour to get every pay-per-view program on TV every week. You don't have the time to give Styles and Sabin 20.
Or at least every 2 weeks.
Yeah, so real cool match. Styles responds to a series of strikes and then punctuates it with a knee that seemed to like legit knock Sabin back. Like Sabin did the stagger back in a way that was super realistic, or he actually got his bell rung. Either way, it looked great.
Sure, does my favorite thing, which is just like, I love challenger or champion coming out onto the apron and just like staring down as the match is going on.
Especially when it's not like done as a like, I hate it when it's a distraction finish because that's stupid.
Yeah, no, it shouldn't be a distraction. It should just be like, this guy's scouting.
And not only scouting, he's just like, I'm just going to get in that guy's head by standing here.
And also, I'm going to take his shine. I'm going to make his match and his win about me. Again, it's Samoa Joe being a petty bitch.
He is. He's just a little petty bitch who also kills people.
It's kind of a remarkable combination.
I love the finish of this match. So the Styles is going for the Styles Clash right near the ropes, and Sabin pushes him overhead, but Styles' legs bounce off the ropes. He rebounds back into the Styles Clash for the win. Real smooth, real cool finish.
The kind of thing you'd expect from these two.
Yeah, it's cool. Like, the Styles Clash is the kind of move that you would think, it's like, there's not a lot of like versatile ways you can get somebody into that kind of move.
To be fair, there probably isn't. They were just dealing with the mind of AJ Styles.
Yeah, you're just dealing with a generational wrestler who's like, I need to find ways into that move that aren't just the same. So he does like the roll through out of a Rana. He does like, he caught Loki out of a Phoenix Splash into it once. He did that with Ricochet at one stage as well in WWE.
It looked good with Ricochet too.
Yeah, he does find cool ways into a move that seems pretty rigid to set up because he is a good pro wrestler. So at the start of the December 3rd Impact, Don West is awaiting the arrival of Raven, and he's just hanging out. And Samoa Joe walks past him with AJ's name taped on his wrist tape, and John's like, what the hell, dude?
Does that mean when Joe started putting his own name on his wrist, he was going to attack himself?
Yes, he's going to bloody himself.
That's crazy.
And then my favorite part of the segment, Don West just turns the other direction and Bobby Heenan is there.
Yeah, just unrelated.
Don's like, Bobby Heenan!
I hope that's a shoot.
Yeah, they surprise them with Bobby.
It's like, because I think we maybe have mentioned it before, it was on the watch along or something, that I was like, Don West strikes me as a guy who was like, okay, I'm doing the wrestling thing. I don't know a lot about it or what to do. I'm running on charisma here. I'm just going to watch 1 billion Bobby Heenan My TNA tapes. And just try and get an idea of the cadence, try and like study up, and then like becoming a giant fan of Bobby Heenan, and then suddenly Bobby Heenan is in TNA and he's freaking the fuck out.
Yeah, and calling a match with them and everything.
Yeah, because like didn't you get that vibe? Like this guy was like, okay, I need to learn how to be an announcer. I'm gonna watch a bunch of Bobby Heenan.
Yeah, and what makes that, as you said, especially with the chemistry with TNA and like Bobby and TNA were best pals, and TNA and West were best of pals. So there's I think a logical through line there.
Oh yeah, it's like the next generation of the team.
And we'll talk about why Heenan was there in a little bit. So Joe had AJ on his wrist tape, and then there's a little MCU stinger at the end of the show where Joe is just kneeing the shit out of AJ against a road case backstage.
I like that this is just a Ring of Honor offer feud.
Yeah, and screaming, I don't respect your code.
What code is it? What's the code? Austin.
I love the degree to which they're very clearly avoiding saying the words honor.
That's like, why? Like, you're friends at this point still, aren't you?
There's a code of respect. There's a code of decency. There's a code of like, you don't injure the opponent.
It's just a code?
That's just a code, but not a code of honor. It's something completely different.
No, a code of impact.
Joe's beating the shit out of him. Then go home show, Samoa Joe faces the returning Amazing Red.
It made me sad.
That Red is just a job guy.
Every time I see Red, it just makes me sad.
Yeah, it's like the decline of Red from like when he was at his like TNA peak in late 02, early 03 to now.
The craziest thing, being someone coming into this for like the first time, is I didn't realize it was so early. I thought for sure it was a way like, I thought like in my head, I guess I would have thought it would have been like this time was when like Red was peaking. But like he was like a dude exclusively who peaked in the Asylum.
Yeah, and the early days of this, like very early Ring of Honor, early TNA is like the peak of Red before like the knee injuries start catching up with them immediately.
Maybe that's like because I was mostly exposed to Red in like 2009 range when he like came back and won the title.
And like I think he found himself again. Like he found the version of Red that he could be consistently, which he absolutely didn't post his knee injuries here in like 04-05.
I don't know, it's an interesting one.
Yeah, so Red gets completely squashed by Joe. Alex Shelley is filming at ringside. My favorite little spot, Joe's going for the face wash, and then Alex Shelley gets in a little too close trying to film the face wash and cuts off like the big charging face wash. And Joe's like, what the hell, man?
I'm sure they had like an my ROH watch of these early years was a while ago now, but I'm sure they did something at some point too.
Joe and Shelley?
Joe and Red specifically.
Red does beat Joe for the X title in 2009.
Yeah, I just meant like more like before Red's knees exploded.
Which is a fun little future thing to this, that like this is just a random throwaway.
And his knees explode?
Yeah, well, yeah. Everyone loves when their knees explode. It's great for them in their career.
Happened to me.
It did. It ended your wrestling career.
Yeah, before it even started. You know what the irony about that is? That's my good knee now.
What happened to the other knee?
Like, I have attested since day one that the the kneecap popping in and out cleared up some level of like atrophy in there, and ever since that happened, like after the healing process, that knee has been way stronger.
Is there a little bit you think though that you had to overcompensate on the quote unquote strong knee that has made it the weak knee?
No, because I felt it almost immediately. Was like it felt like stuff had cleared up that was like in there, like torn tissue or something. It was weird.
Yeah. Well, it's kind of like bone goes back stronger kind of thing.
I mean, maybe, but like I always found it odd, but like interesting. Like I'm not talking about like in the years preceding it. I mean, what's the opposite of preceding? Post-seeding.
Sure.
In the years post-seeding it, I'm talking about like in like months, like after it healed, it was already on the other. Like I could tell that like it felt better. Just odd.
Yeah, because I broke my leg twice, and like
what?
Yeah, not recently. I was like 3.
Like how bad were the breaks?
I think like the second break was because it wasn't properly healed the first time. Because I slipped on a toy car and broke my leg.
Like, was it like a full break?
Yeah, I was.
You got like kid bones, so like you're probably fine regardless.
Yeah, but I was in a cast for a while, and then I slipped on a Lego catalog and re-broke it.
Oh, he's slipping, this guy. This guy's been taking bumps since 3.
Yeah, and my mom insisted that she didn't think it healed properly the first time, which is the reason I broke it again. But like that was when I was 3, and like I have no weakness in either. Like I think it was my right leg I broke. I want to say.
No, you broke it in the most malleable time, to be fair.
When bones are still growing and they're not formed.
That's crazy. I didn't know that. Did you like remember it?
I don't really remember. I have like vague feelings of going to hospital and stuff, but I don't have like strong memories.
Probably good that you don't remember that pain.
Yeah, of breaking it twice.
Yeah. Well, they say third time's the charm.
But yeah, I haven't come near breaking a bone since. I should break one just for the feeling.
We should break one on the podcast.
My freaking tailbone still hurts from when I took that bum like 2-3 weeks ago.
You probably knocked something out of place.
I think I probably bruised it, I think is what happened. But I think that we talked about that in the watch along, I want to say. Or one of these Patreon shows. I can never remember.
You felt what it was like.
It is always so funny when people like mention things we mentioned on shows from 2 years ago. It's like, buddy.
They mentioned things on the show that I just did and I don't remember it.
Yeah. I found actually last time, because there was a Rain Takers we recorded like 2 weeks in advance, and someone mentioned something to you in Discord, and I'm like, he doesn't remember that because that was 2 weeks ago.
I literally, though, I could have recorded it the day before and I wouldn't have.
Yeah, it just goes in and out at once.
As soon as it leaves my mouth, I've forgotten what I've said in this show.
So Joe beats Red with the Muscle Buster Coquina Clutch, which is the Morphoplex move of the night. Shelly ran away from Joe, and this is the last we'll see of Red until 2009.
That's kind of crazy. But, like, you know, he's been a spotty, like, appearances at this point, even.
Yeah, because, like, when D'Amore took over, there was a bunch of people they brought back. Like, they brought back Shelly, they brought in Joe, they brought back Sanjay. All those people have been sticking around as regulars, and they also brought back Red at that stage, who has not stuck around as a regular. And I think the sad thing is, right call.
It's weird.
So that does bring us to the pay-per-view match, in which Samoa Joe defeats AJ Styles for the X Division Championship. In maybe the best match in TNA history to this point?
Yeah, well, no, because the cage.
I think I prefer Triple X AMW, but this is a pretty strong number 2, I think.
Well, we gave that 5 and we gave this 4 3/4, so...
This is, I think, the most physical match in TNA history. They beat the shit out of each other.
The best singles match so far.
Oh, easily. Like, Sabin Hoovy might be the other best singles match. It might be Daniel's AJ.
Yeah, but, like, you know, it's a thin list at this point.
Nash. Jarrett.
No, Jarrett.
Watts.
Well, yes,
Callis.
but that was yeah, well, okay, listen, we have to focus on my bits.
But yeah, super physical, super violent. They beat the living hell out of each other. These two guys at this moment in time are two of the people who have like the most perfect chemistry imaginable, or like AJ is super bump, like made out of rubber, bounce off the mat guy, and Samoa Joe is evil monster who will beat the living shit out of anything in front of him. And those two things combined at this point in their respective careers, where I think arguably this is the best version of Joe wrestling the best version of AJ, and they just go out there and have the match you would expect these two to have at this moment, with a red hot crowd. Like the sacrifice match had some like finish shenanigans with Daniels running in. None of that this time. Straight up match between these two as they just kill each other. They just kill each other.
Delivers it every way you can imagine. You've often said that like the Samoa Joe is what AJ Styles needed to become AJ Styles. And it's like we're seeing that now.
Yeah, and this is it. Because, like, this version of AJ, and it's one of the things I really hate about, like, talking points about wrestlers, in that there would have been a talking point that, like, this version of AJ isn't, like, TV ready, or he's not, like, what you would consider a traditional TV wrestling star, in that he doesn't do the 20-minute promos. He doesn't do a lot of what wrestling was for years and years. But you look at, like, the way AJ sells everything in this match, like, when he hits his dropkick and he pumps himself up, or when he gets dropped on his head and he does that, like, dead-eye 30-yard stare, like, all of the little performance elements of AJ Styles at this stage are so perfect. He is, like, the best wrestler in the world at this stage.
You know who, like, kind of has that vibe for me now? Who's, like, not ready in the traditional senses, but, like, as soon as he's in the ring, you forget about it? Kyle Fletcher. It's, like, a guy who, like, struggles to promo, but the minute he's in the ring, you start to see why people think that this guy could be a giant star.
Yeah.
And it's like, I was just thinking about that then, because I was thinking about how in Collision it's Fletcher and Danielson this week. And I'm just like, it just has such a similar aura about it.
Need Danielson to beat the shit out of him?
He's definitely going to beat the shit out of him. So let it be known now, I'm saying in 2023 that Kyle Fletcher will be as big as AJ Styles.
He is the next AJ, yes.
If it doesn't happen, we forget that I ever mentioned it. And if it does, we victory lap this audio for the next 10 years.
Yeah, and when Mark Davis turns on him, he can be a Samoa Joe and beat the shit out of him.
Oh, that match will rule. I'm a bit, like, right now I love Davis like more than Fletcher. I see why people are like, Fletcher's going to be the guy, but Davis is my kind of wrestler, just the rough and tumble beat the fuck out of you guys. So I'd be really into that.
I do appreciate how, like, they stuck to the actual story of the match in the match itself, because, like, the first 2 or 3 minutes is AJ just wailing on Joe, because, like, the idea is AJ challenged Joe for this match.
Pissed.
He's mad at what he did to Daniels.
The fire.
So, like, he dominates Joe for the first couple of minutes, like, taking the fight to him, hits him with a suplex, hits him with the dropkick. That dropkick is, like, one of the best dropkicks you'll ever see.
And, like, that's talking about AJ Styles.
Yeah, because it's like the drop down float over dropkick, which is always awesome as it is. But one, in the way AJ reacted to it, as I mentioned, like that big pump up moment for him where he hit that dropkick, and like you can see the adrenaline is pumping through that man. And then you watch the way Joe sold it, in that he didn't immediately take a bump for it. Like, he took the dropkick, he whipped his head back to sell the dropkick, and then took like a delayed stagger bump, and it looked so good.
Good shit.
Yeah, so then Joe finally got his hands on Styles, turned the tide with some, like, evil strikes. He starts kicking him, and Mike Tenay just starts squealing. Like, Mike Tenay's like, oh, God!
He started squealing.
Kicks his leg out in the apron, swings him into the rail, and then, like, you get into what is always my favorite portion in any of these Samoa Joe matches against any of these kind of wrestlers he can just eat alive, where he does just eat people up and dominate them and beat the shit out of them. And, like, he's gotten more and more into, like, the performance aspect of that later in his career, because he can't do as much of the physical aspect of it as he used to be able to do back here. But, like, he did, when you watch it, the same with the MJF match, it's like that heat segment with Samoa Joe is like one of the most charismatic heat segments you'll ever see in your life, because Joe knows how to eat somebody up more than pretty much, like, Walter is the only other wrestler who's like a point of comparison for me in the last 20 years.
What a perfect little summary.
AJ looks to fire up with a discus lariat, but then Joe just slaps him and finishes his face wash. Styles breaks out the Fosbury flop for the first time in ages, as the announcers point that out, and then flying forearms him in the back of his head. Styles power bombs Joe for 2.
But it's like, Styles is a strong motherfucker.
And, like, this is the stage where Joe can kind of take bumps like that, but Styles is a freak. He's just a freak.
Like, he's like bleeding. Shit's gone crazy.
Yeah, he's bleeding from the mouth, which is a fun little thing. If you look at the TNA Impact video game, the facial scan of AJ was taken in the immediate aftermath of this match. So because he got his lip busted open, if you actually zoom in real close on the AJ Styles character model in the TNA Impact video game, you can see his busted lip from this match.
I'm zooming.
There's actually a cool featurette in the actual game, the making of the game, where they show that. They zoom in on his character model. They're like, you can actually see the moment from when his lip was busted, because we took his face scan right after this match.
You can see it.
It's real cool. Joe crushes AJ with a lariat that lands AJ on his head. AJ kicks out at 1. Joe hits a tiger bomb. AJ kicks out at 1 again. again. He hits the Styles Clash, but Joe kicks out, goes up for the spiral tap, but Joe pushes the ref into the ropes. AJ leaps off the ropes into an O'Connor roll, but Joe pulls him into the clutch for the submission victory. Samoa Joe is your new X Division champion.
And it feels right.
And I like it would have been very easy to put the belt on Joe immediately. Like, we are now 6 months.
They showed some restraint.
Yeah, we're now 6 months into Joe being in TNA, and he is now X Division champion. Like, he ran through the X Division in a way that was like really organic. They were smart that they did the 3-way in September so that they could have Styles beat Daniels to avoid beating Joe and push that down the road a little further. And then you get to this match which it really caps off, I think, both men's 2005s. You know, when you think of AJ with the Abyss match, the Daniels matches, with the Joe and Daniels match, with even like the world title stuff with the King of the Mountain, and then the Ultimate X all the way back in January. Like the pay-per-view year AJ has had this year, the Shawn Waltman match as well, which was really good. The pay-per-view year AJ has had this year is fantastic. And then this closes it off. And then you look at like the year Joe has had, where he comes in at Slammiversary, beats Sanjay, looks awesome, has that awesome match with Sabin, an awesome match with AJ, an awesome match with AJ and Daniels, a good match for what it is with Jushin Liger, and then starts building up to this match to beat AJ. It's like a real good culmination of both men's years.
Yeah, that is kind of like a perfect little bow on everything they've done, and it kind of makes sense in that way that it's AJ and Joe who have this moment in the match, and that Joe is the guy to beat AJ.
And then to go back to Joe being a little petty bitch, and the thing I love more than anything, like after the match, he's won the X title. He's the new champion. He's won the match. He pulls AJ up and then just brains him with the belt because it's like, fuck you.
But he shakes MJF's hand.
That drove me nuts. It drove me so nuts. I hate it. I hate handshakes and I hate respect in wrestling these days. I hate it.
But the code! I'm
so sick of every match ending in a handshake or a hug. I want anger. I want people to hate each other. I want Samoa Joe to be mad because MJF beat him. I want him to choke him out after the match and try and get his title shot back.
I'm on my second screen. I have like some random Dusty Rhodes Bruiser Brody match from 1978, and I'm just like imagining, yes, after these two go to war, they shake hands in the middle of the ring.
Yeah, they hug each other and do a little promo about how much we love wrestling. Fuck off.
Like, I think there's a place for it, but it shouldn't be every match.
It's the kind of thing you do like once every 2 years at the culmination of it. Like Claudio and Kingston, I actually had no problem with it.
Yeah, because that's a gigantic run and a gigantic story.
Yeah, that's like the culmination of that story being a small show of respect between two men who hate each other. Makes sense. Like, that's good. That works. But then you do it with Joe and on the same fucking show, because of course they do, because they only have two ideas. But you do the same thing with Joe and MJF. Like, fuck off. No, you should be mad. He got screwed. He got cheated out of the win.
Instead of talking about Dusty real quick, my man has like a golf ball sized welt in the middle of his forehead.
From this match or just in general?
Yeah, I think from this match. And like his left shoulder just has gig marks all down it. This man is a maniac.
Well, he's not called Work Soft, brother Brody.
Well, I think that might have been Dusty's doing the gig marks. But yes, Bruiser Brody does not have certainly has a reputation.
So the post-match angle continues. He's beaten down on AJ after the match, and Daniels makes his return to make the save. He runs wild for a minute, but then Joe connects with a headbutt and Daniels staggers back.
It's awesome that he just kills him again.
Yeah, so Daniels completely loses his balance. Joe starts wailing on him again as security separate them. So the angle being that Daniels isn't fully recovered from his concussion, so he's returned too soon to get revenge, and one headbutt caused his head to go woo.
That and the Danielson 30-minute draw.
Yeah, in a fun touch, Bryan Danielson beat Christopher Daniels to keep the ROH title in the main event of the November 19th Ring of Honor show. The match went about 30, with Daniels winning with a hard forearm, and the idea of the finish was he won with a forearm because Daniels was concussed against Joe. So they're even playing a little off the TNA angle in Ring of Honor, which I think is fun. So there's a story about how apparently like even Styles and Daniels didn't love the idea that Daniels did his big comeback and got laid out again, being like that makes the babyface look weak, makes Joe look too strong, Daniels looks like a nerd.
But he's injured.
Yeah, and I think it's a much better story. It's a much cooler story that like he did come back, he rushed back, he wants revenge against this guy.
That makes him like more of a babyface. That like he wasn't ready for it, but he had to go out there and try and defend his honor.
And stop Joe from doing to AJ what he did to Daniels, which is like what he was going to do.
That's how you babyface the guy.
Yeah, and it's a cooler story that like he hits one headbutt and he's like, oh fuck, I'm super concussed. So yeah, it's also Dave refers to the Unbreakable match as the 9/11 three-way, which listen, the match did happen on September 11th, but you can't just call matches the 9/11
The most
match.
important event to ever happen on that day.
You can't just casually be like, oh, the 9/11 three-way. That date's off limits. There are several different ideas being batted around for AJ Styles for a January pay-per-view match, not limited to Shannon Moore, Tiger Mask, Black Tiger, Ultimo Dragon, and even Kenta.
I like the idea that we have this New Japan relationship, but let's bring in Kenta.
Yeah, it's like, maybe Kenta.
I have no clue what that match is. Is it any of those names?
It's not any of those names. It's a certain Ace.
Oh, yeah, I've seen that match.
Go, Ace.
If he has that theme, I'll be very shocked.
I do like immediately after this match, while they're teeing up to go to the main event, like Mike and Don are just at the announce desk being like, this is the fucking best pay-per-view that has ever been presented.
Like, we were talking about that when we were watching it, like, that's awesome. And AEW needs to feel itself more and come across like that during pay-per-views.
Like, Mike is like, there is nothing in this industry like a 3-hour TNA Sunday pay-per-view. We keep topping ourselves. We got Barbed Wire Massacre. We got that last Samoa Joe AJ match. We are fucking rocking it.
That's the thing, like, why is Excalibur and Taz not doing that?
You gotta have swagger. You gotta back yourself.
Like, I get you don't want to end the show with that, but like, you do it on like fucking, like, the Forbidden Door is a perfect example. You have Omega Ospreay on that show and you don't just go, fuck yeah, we're the coolest and greatest and the best.
Or like, even like after Wrestle Dream, like after Danielson and Zack Sabre Jr., you should be cutting back to that announce desk. And fair enough, you did have Mox at that desk being like...
Mox kind of did it, yeah.
Like, there's just the fucking best thing I've ever seen.
Like, you like, that company, like, needs to start feeling itself more in that direction because it needs, like, perception is reality, you know?
Yeah, so you have Mike and Don just, like, they're telling you, and, like, fair enough, you should only do it after you've earned it. You, like, when you have that Styles and Joe match, you can then take your victory lap immediately after.
Yeah. If you have Sabre Danielson, you can have your victory lap.
Yes, pat yourself the back more. Like, as you said, perception is reality. People will believe it. People will often believe it even when it's not true. So when it is true, you should be taking your victory lap.